Hello, this is Ms. Kravchak, the Gifted Resource Teacher at White Oaks. This video is to give you a little bit more information about the gifted application, testing, and identification process in Virginia Beach. Hello, this is Ms. Kravchak, the Gifted Resource Teacher at White Oaks. This video is to give you a little bit more information about the gifted application, testing, and identification process in Virginia Beach. This workshop is designed to assist parents and guardians in better understanding the process for Grade 1 applications and identification. Also, I hope the session will help you see the value of your input in the application. We'll be looking at all 5 steps in this process, including screening, application, testing, eligibility, and then notification and placement. The first step in the application and identification process is the screening. Every first grade student enrolled in VBCPS is screened at their school by an assessment specialist from the Gifted Testing Office. I believe our first grade students were given this assessment in October. The screening instrument is called the Naglieri Nonverbal Abilities Test. The test is described by the publisher as a culture fair test, fair across gender, race, and ethnicity. The instrument uses shapes that are universal in nature, and parents can view their child's screening score on Parent View. The second step in the process is the completion of the online application by parents or guardians. Students who score at the 90th percentile or above on the screening instrument are recommended for further evaluation and consideration by the Gifted Identification and Placement Committee. Parents, guardians, teachers, or others with knowledge of the child's ability may also refer the student for consideration by the committee, even if the student doesn't score above 90th percentile on the screening instrument. The submitted application by the parent or guardian is what begins the next step in the process. So parents who wish to have their child considered for selection at Old Donation School need to indicate this by checking the box on the online application. Once the application is submitted, the decision to apply for ODS cannot be changed, and the student, if identified for gifted services, will not be considered for ODS. So when you are in there and you are making decisions about what type of application you are completing, if you want your child to be considered for the magnet school, the Old Donation School, you're going to want to make sure that you check that box. On this slide or on this page, you also see links. There's links to VB Schools, the Gifted Services website. There's a link for the application, and there's also a link to a YouTube video that kind of helps you see how to complete the application. It's important to note that students who are not referred based on the 5th grade screening can be referred at a later time. They can be referred again in middle school or even in high school. Testing should take place when it's most appropriate for student success. So I want to take a few minutes to preview the application and the parts of it so that you'll have an idea of what you'll be looking at when you get in to the website. The first thing they're going to do is ask you for some basic information about your child, about yourself, including an email address, and that email address will be used to communicate with you in the future. The online application asks you to reflect upon, rate, and then provide specific examples of student behaviors in 4 different areas that relate to the characteristics of gifted learners. So the first step is to reflect and rate. So you'll see a variety of behaviors, and it'll ask you to think about your child and rate them for each of those behaviors. As the parent or the guardian, it's likely that you are the person who knows your child best outside of the school setting. So the input that you provide with this online application is really valuable. It lets the Gifted Identification and Placement Committee truly see your child. It's not realistic for them to observe or interview each child that applies for gifted services. So the input that you have speaks most directly to the potential or the demonstrated abilities of the child outside of the school setting. After you go through the rating portion of the application, there's going to be a place for you to add additional comments. You can see I have 2 examples here. The one in the forefront has far more specific examples. You're really helping the committee see who the child is At home, you're giving lots of examples that will help them understand why you chose different places on the rating scale. The more you can tell them, the better they're going to be able to see your child and understand whether or not your child requires a different type of instruction or environment to best meet their needs. Because it is so important, I want to take a few minutes and kind of go through some of the areas of the application and talk to you about examples that you might provide. So, the first part talks about your child being an intense learner. So, this might be the vocabulary, the determination to complete things, the passion that they have for different topics, and their drive for learning and exploring and discovering, the extra things that they know, things that they might tell you or talk about that you're wondering, how did you know that? Where did you learn that? The books that they read, the things that they're interested in, their awareness of the world, things beyond just them and their home and their school, that concern for equity, concern for fairness, things like that. Their passions, what they're really interested in, what they become absorbed in outside of school. So the next thing to think about might be their analytical thinking. How quickly do they understand things that are complex? Do they show an interest in challenges or difficult problems? Do they look at things from different points of view? Are they comparing things, making connections? Will they take risks and try things that are different? Are they confident? Do they argue? Are they kind of stubborn in a positive way? Do they become determined to complete things? Another thing you can write about is creativity. Does your child generate ideas that are different from their peers? Do they show an imagination? Do they show that they want to be original and create things that are different or more complex? Do they add extra details to things? Do they ask questions? Does your child show curiosity about a variety of topics? Does your child have a sense of humor? Does your child understand jokes that you think are a little bit above their age level? Do they get really passionate about something that they make more complex than their normal age would? Another important, very important thing to write about would be your child's motivation. How well do they work independently? How well do they own the work and the task and the jobs that they have to do? Are they interested in doing more than what's required on things that they're passionate about? Do they want to take it a step further? Do they work cooperatively with others? Are they very good at delegating tasks and being a leader in a team? While you're completing this application, remember the importance of your contribution. Really think about how well the placement and identification committees are going to be able to truly see your child outside of the school setting with the examples that you provide for them. Before you submit, take a look again at what you write in the narrative and really think about whether or not you provided specific details that will help them really understand your child. Have you provided details that highlight their strengths? Have you provided details that explain any of the additional needs that your child may have? The next step is testing. All students that have a submitted application online are tested using the COGAT, or the Cognitive Abilities Test. Again, an assessment specialist from the Gifted Testing Office will come here, and the parents will be notified of the testing date in advance. The best preparation for this assessment is for the child to get a good night's sleep, to eat a nutritious breakfast, and to have a conversation with someone about how to take their time and how to just think about what they're doing. And that this test isn't the one thing that determines who they are as a person. So to not be too stressed about it. We don't want anybody to come to school worried on the day of this assessment. So all the information that's collected creates a student profile, that testing data, the teacher input, the parent or guardian input, all other academic achievement information. And all of this information goes before the Gifted Identification and Placement Committee, which is made of school personnel who have knowledge of gifted education, maybe administrators, school counselors, gifted resource teachers, the gifted assessment specialist, psychologist, maybe some central office. This committee thoroughly reviews all of the data on the student application using a multi-criteria approach. And based on all of the information presented, the committee determines if the student requires gifted services. Students identified for the intellectually gifted program are students who have outstanding abilities. They're capable of high performance, and they require differentiated educational programs beyond those normally provided by regular school programs. Parents or guardians are notified by email of the decision of the Gifted Identification and Placement Committee, and they may access their child's testing information on ParentView. Basically, one of four things is going to happen. One, the child is identified and will receive gifted services through the resource cluster model in their neighborhood school, which would be here at White Oaks, because they were identified but not accepted to Old Donation School. Two, they were identified and accepted to Old Donation School, and so they will attend 2nd through 8th grade at Old Donation School. Three, the first grade student can also be placed on hold and will receive gifted services in a 2nd grade cluster classroom for additional data to be gathered. And that child will again have an application completed, and they will be tested in 2nd grade to determine whether they would be eligible for gifted services still in 3rd grade. Or 4, the child will not be identified at this time for gifted services. So just know once the child also is identified for gifted services in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, that student will hold the identification until graduation. So this concludes our online webinar. Please feel free to reach out. My email is probably the best way to get in touch with me. That's the fastest way you can get a response. My phone number is also there for you with the extension to my classroom. I'd be happy to sit down and talk to any parents and help you with your application. The Gifted Testing Office, the phone number is there. It's also a great place to go if you have questions about testing, identification, placement, any of it. Sometimes they have better answers than I do. Your feedback is valuable. Please consider completing the feedback exit ticket survey for us. It'll also give you a chance to let me know if you would like me to contact you and whether or not you'd like to get some support with the application.